I know that I have already talked about Thomastown back in 2024. However, it could be better. My original video was very California-centric and barely mentioned any of the other ones, as since those are the ones I went to, they're the ones I actually had my own media of. But I figured that with what I've learned with video making over the past 2 years, and with new announcements regarding some of these areas, I decided to revisit the topic. In February 2007, Six Flags announced a partnership with Hit Entertainment to bring the popular Thomas & Friends IP to their parks, starting with Six Flags New England and Six Flags Marine World, the latter being renamed to Six Flags Discovery Kingdom starting that year. This was part of an ongoing push by Six Flags to add more family attractions and to increase the amount of intellectual properties at their parks, with another example being Wiggles World, which was also being added to some of the Six Flags' parks, including New England. It's worth noting that the deals Six Flags made with Thomas and the Wiggles were actually separate, as while Hit was the US distributor for the Wiggles, they were pulling out at the time. Six Flags New England was part of the first wave of Thomastown areas, and alongside the other Six Flags parks, were just a part of a new wave of Thomas theme park attractions, which started with a Thomas train ride at Drusilla's Park in the UK. As such, Six Flags used the same train type, which was made by German manufacturer Metallbau Emmelin, though Six Flags had the correct wheel arrangement. It's worth noting that the blue wheels on Thomas are actually a facade, with the real wheels being a bit smaller. Here's a diagram I made of how it works. Most of the real estate in these lands were made of the Thomas train ride, featuring some show sets, with the main one being Tidmouth Sheds, featuring facades of Gordon, James, and Percy, and an extra empty berth for Thomas. Also during the ride were signs that had a Thomas trivia question followed by the answer. In addition to the train, there were also 2 flat rides, a Zamperla Crazy Bus ride themed to Birdie, and a Dumbo type ride themed to Harold the Helicopter. Unfortunately, it was too early for them to make a boat ride themed to either Captain or Skiff, albeit they probably could have used Bulstrode. Occasionally they had Sir Topham Hatt as a walk-around, which does feel off because the mascot character like they have with Thomas in the US, while the UK's Thomas parks and events just have a regular portrayal of the Fat Controller. I wonder why that's the case. The final part of Thomastown was the Knapford Station gift shop, which had sold various Thomas merchandise, the most noteworthy being an exclusive wooden railway Six Flags cargo car with Thomas combo, which I still have today, albeit this is a different Thomas. So far we got a pretty good representation of Thomas at Six Flags New England. Could things get any better? Now this is what I'm talking about, some great immersion. Thomastown Discovery Kingdom opened the same year as New England's, but this one takes the cake due to the setting. The land is in the park's back corner next to a lake, which the train travels adjacent to. This actually kinda makes you feel like you're on Sodor. Plus the land also has more set pieces and even a rail crossing as the train circles around the park's shark exhibit. As for the flat rides, they're exactly the same with Birdie and Harold. In addition, a small splash pad was added around 2009. Wow, Six Flags was 2 for 2 in 2007, and there's more to come with 2 more in 2008, and it's probably going to even be better. It wasn't. Six Flags Over Georgia's Thomastown opened in 2008, the same year as yet another Thomas attraction in the UK with Thomasland at Drayton Manor, which also used the same train style. As for Over Georgia, we got the same Thomas train style as the last time, of course, since you can't have Thomastown without that, nor can you have a Thomastown without Birdie and Harold, and they did have them, but as part of a play area rather than as rides. There was also a traditional play structure as well. It's a letdown for some, especially enthusiasts, since this replaced Deja Vu, but it's great if your kid was more into interactive experiences. Six Flags went all out on promoting Thomastown at Magic Mountain, even hiring a guy named Jay Thomas to be their park president. As for the land itself, it's a step up from Over Georgia in terms of rides, but a step down in terms of play areas. You had your traditional Thomas train, now with an intersection, and it was also the only coaster to operate at any of these areas. Percy's Railway has been on and off at the park since opening, and it makes Percy's Nightmare and Calling All Engines a reality, and it also makes the geography confusing. So you have Knapford Station in between Tidmouth Sheds and Tidmouth Halt? How is that even possible? Maybe they should have done the Railway Series version where Tidmouth is the main powerhouse of the island, or make the area somewhere else. I'd say the Quarry, but then people would be expecting Mavis. There was also a splash pad surrounding Cranky the Crane, though as I visited post-Christmas it wasn't in operation. How did one of the most neglected Six Flags parks get the biggest Thomastown? The scenery wasn't on par with the others, but it makes up for it with the most rides. Birdie and Harold return alongside Cranky as a drop tower, a ride surrounding the Diesels, a Ferris wheel, and others. Here the Thomas train circled around the perimeter of the land with a crossing at the entrance, now updated to feature a CGI Thomas, as this land opened in 2010 and that's when things started to go downhill. Six Flags has started to go downhill ever since they expanded too quickly in the late 90s and early 2000s to the point that they started to sell off and even close some of their parks in their portfolio. And with the recession happening in the late 2000s, things were getting worse, and in 2009 they hit a breaking point, filing for bankruptcy. During this, a corporate shakeup happened, and out with Mark Shapiro, and in comes Jim Reed Anderson as the company's new lead. And to help relieve some debt, they decided to cut ties with all the licensed properties they had introduced and went strictly to Looney Tunes and DC Comics for their IPs. And that forced all the Thomas Towns to rebrand. Now it's been 15 years since all this happened, and a lot has changed, so let's see what they've done. We're starting with Discovery Kingdom because that's the one that's changed the least. It's also an outlier because of its theme, as while most Thomas Towns became Whistle Stop Park, this one became Seaside Junction. And aside from some new paint on the rides, nothing has changed since. From what I've heard, the train still has a Thomas whistle. Now, when New England opened for the 2011 season, Thomas Town was nowhere to be seen, as they decided to close it for future expansion. But whatever plans they had were canceled, and Whistle Stop Park reopened in 2013. Since then, the former Birdie and Harold rides were removed, leaving the train as the only one still operating. In my original Thomastown video, I said that Over George's Thomastown became DC Super Friends, but that's not actually the case. What actually happened was that the playground structure was instead moved to the Bugs Bunny Boomtown area, with Thomastown itself being replaced by the Pandemonium Flat Ride. The Whistle Stop train has since been put on static display with the middle wheels removed. If Six Flags ever decides to sell the train, there should totally be a campaign to buy it and restore it to Thomas, only for everything to come crashing down. Magic Mountain's Thomastown became Whistle Stop Park in 2011 and mostly stayed the same for a decade, though it did begin to show its age. I rode the train in 2014 and some of the paint was peeling off to reveal the old Annie and Clarabelle paint. Around 2 years ago, I thought that without Thomas, Magic Mountain should remove the train ride in favor of something like a family inverted coaster. But since then, now we know what's happening. Whistle Stop Park is being turned into the Tasmania subsection of the new Looney Tunes land, with the train ride becoming Taz's Tasmanian Train Tours, while Magic Flyer has been demolished, which, while sad to see the park's oldest coaster go, it does mean we no longer have to deal with doozies complaining about not having the credit due to its maximum height limit. And of course, I saved the saddest one for last. Six Flags America's Thomastown also became Whistle Stop Park, but saw just as bad of a decay as the other parks. Some rides were removed, and by 2022, the area was closed off and stood vacant for the next few years. And now we know that because of the closure of Six Flags America, we know that it will never return. If any of these rides are salvaged, they will probably go to another park like Great America for their Camp Cartoon replacement. Since 2010, both Edaville and Kennywood opened their own Thomas-themed areas in the US, though even those have had a sun set on them. If Mattel Adventure Park ever opens, there will be a new Thomas train ride themed to All Engines Go, which shows you how much the park has been delayed, as All Engines Go is both ended and is getting replaced, which will make this train dated. Of course, this isn't the full story with the Six Flags IPs, as they have a pretty rich history, so join me in the future as we take a look at these attractions.